So, welcome to Lent 3 if you're following the Edinburgh Diocese series. And this is all about Jesus clearing the temple. And I'm going to show you this week how useful I find pictures from magazines. So, I've been reading the passage and thinking about it. And I've got a picture here that I just tore out of a magazine, and I'm just putting some glue stick on the back, and I'm going to stick it into my journal. But the key thing with sticking pictures onto a page where you want to be able to open and close the page afterwards is just to do half first. So I'm doing the left hand half there, and then I'm ramming it down into the middle so that I'll be able to close the page like that and then also open it up again. And now I'm going to glue the other half, and that will make sure that it's really well stuck. I'm just going to put my finger under the edge so I really get all these edges glued down, and you'll see why in a minute I want to do that, as I don't want them coming up again once it's all glued. So just checking it's really round in the middle there. You want a bit of slack on the paper in the middle so that it's got room to open flat, but also so that it can fold without bagging. So I've just got this picture of a church. It's actually a church I know well down south, and I'm now going to kind of merge it into the background a bit, and I'm going to use a bit of acrylic to do that. So I've got an old, well, it's like a credit card. It's one of those things you get free, and I'm just squirting a little bit of acrylic on it. I'm going to do more about acrylic later in the series, but for now I'm just going to put a bit on here, and this just kind of merges the magazine picture into the page. Now, often when I'm using magazines, I'll rip up lots of smaller pictures, but for this, I just found this nice big one and just decided I'd go with one picture on the page. So just daubing bits of paint around the edges there, just to kind of merge it in a bit. And I'm going to use some green as well. Now I'm using very bright colours here, kind of thinking about the church and the body of Christ as per the passage, and I just felt like some bright, don't know if you can see, probably can't, but there's very bright light here at the moment. There's snow everywhere, so I'm just sitting by a very snowy window at the moment, so just reflecting that a bit in the light there on the picture. So I've put some paint round the edge just to merge that in a bit, and it's still quite wet. I'll just maybe clean off a bit at the very edge, and I'm going to just put some washi at the top and the bottom. Now again, washi tape's really useful for holding down the edges of magazine pictures, so I'm just going to wipe some on there. And that will just hold the edge secure, and when you turn the page it won't kind of come away. So I'm using a ruler just to rip it quickly. Sorry, my arm's got in the way now. I'll just stick some along the top there. Same thing, ruler, and that's the easiest way to cut the tape. So now what I'm going to do, I think, is just put a couple of key phrases from the passage that really jumped out at me. And I've got some ink here. This is Memento Tuxedo Black. You can get this from any craft shop. And I've got some little rubber stamps, and they're the alphabet. And I actually got these from Lidl. Good old Lidl. Now, a good tip for using rubber stamps is just to rub them on your hand before you put them on the ink, because it kind of just does something. It sort of preps the rubber. So just putting these on, and I'm deliberately doing these quite randomly. It's the O coming again, and I'm thinking about God's house And it's fascinating because, of course, the passage has God's house as the temple church 1 minute, and then the next minute it's quite clear that what's really going on is Jesus' body. This paint's not quite dry. So thinking about the building of the church, which was the temple that he was in, and then Jesus makes the parallel with his own body, which was to rise from the dead after 3 days. So I'm just putting God's house, his body, and I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'll continue to. And I like the fact that these rather stark letters kind of need some softening, and that will be what happens as I try and work this out in my prayers. What does this mean for me? God's house, his body. So that's just an illustration of how to use a magazine picture and incorporate it into your journaling and prayers. And at other times, you've seen in previous weeks, this was actually a napkin that I used. And here I've used bits of different magazines. So you can see how easy it is to incorporate those. And printed matter is everywhere. We have so much access to it, and most of it's free. Blessings. See you again soon.